podcast definitely has a lag time to show its true performance. I think one of the stats I've seen recently is 70% of your performance will come within 14 days of an airing on a podcast. And you have to remember, most people are probably not going to remember a URL. We did a whole white paper on that about how vanity URLs are kind of not the best benchmark for immediate performance, but people will go look and search for your product. And you have to be very cognizant of that and watch those trends when you have an audio campaign running. Because if you see your branded search go up, it's probably not just from you spending more on Google or just those factors. It's most likely a correlation between podcasts, which we do show some great visuals in this white paper.
Absolutely, to all of that. I think there's a couple key things of, I think, Giles, you mentioned, like, you have an investment into audio, you start to see that build over time. A lot of people who are coming into the space for the first time are thinking about dipping their toe in. And so they're starting with maybe the minimum spend to get a read and
Mm.
expecting a huge impact from it. And I just don't think that that's the right expectation to have for it. You need to let this medium build. For what James was saying is totally true of, like, you're going to maybe hear this, you're on a second screen, you're not really thinking about it, you're not going to remember a URL. There are a bunch of things that make the channel great, but then there are also things that make it, that work against it. And so you need to give that listener time to sort through some of those things that are pulling them away from being able to activate through your means of tracking them on last touch. And so the ability to kind of let the channel build over time, you'll start to see that performance. And I think that comes into goal settings. I know that in here it's talking about, like, the value of, you're spending $1 in audio and you're getting a positive impact on another channel's dollar. So we've had conversations with clients to try and factor that in, where, that New York client you mentioned, that audio just might have been like chugging along, not the greatest results. When we started looking at the branded search impact, maybe the branded search got 20% more efficient when we started our
Mm.
podcast campaign.
Yeah.
We've gone back to that CMO and said, well, maybe we should increase our podcast allowable CPA 15 or 20% to account for
Yeah.
that. And next thing we know, podcast is now, quote, working, and we're hitting
Yeah.
goal, and more placements are building. And next thing we know, the audio's investment is increased because we're hitting more goals with more placements. That then circles back and even further positively impacts branded search. So you start to see this.
Yeah.
We talk about 360 campaigns a lot, but it's usually 360, and that it's just the sum of 12 parts, even driving 30% of it. But this is an opportunity
Yeah.
to really find synergies between channels, and they both can grow simultaneously.